Real rap beef isn't about who could send the funniest tweet, although a lot of current rap beefs play out that way. Sometimes they start in the streets. Let's take it back to the late 90s when one of the biggest rappers at the time was a guy from Queens making crossover hit singles and on top of the mainstream rap game. This is a beef that went further than just some diss tracks. You saw the title? You know the drill. This is Ja Rule vs 50 Cent. Ja and 50 come from the Queens neighborhoods of Hollis and South Jamaica respectively, and by the mid-90s, both were working on making music. Ja Rule with his group Cash Money Click signed to TVT, then eventually were dropped and he wound up on newly formed Murder Inc. founded by brothers Chris and Irv Gotti under Def Jam. 50 Cent started his career around the same time when he met Jam Master Jay and learned about making records from him and signed to his newly formed JMJ Records before eventually being signed to Columbia Records by the Trackmasters and making his Power of the Dollar album, which was shelved by the label but did get bootlegged. Allegedly, the beef started in 1999 when Ja Rule was robbed by a friend of 50 Cent. Ja saw 50 in a club with the guy that robbed him and possibly felt that 50 had something to do with the situation, leading to there being tension among the two artists. If that is the case, I don't blame Ja for being cautious. Ja Rule, on the other hand, stated in an interview with Vlad TV that the situation was quite different. He got robbed for his chain by someone that he knew and got it back, and knew that 50 Cent had nothing to do with the situation, but that 50 ran with that story to try to gain publicity essentially. Around 1999, 50 recorded several songs for Power of the Dollar, including songs like Your Life's on the Line, Ghetto Quran, and How to Rob. Ghetto Quran has him talking about the infamous drug dealers, the Supreme Team, led by Kenneth McGriff, aka Supreme, and his nephew Gerald Miller, aka Prince. Supreme plays a part in this beef, so keep his name in mind for later. They had a whole issue themselves, which I won't be going into detail too much as that sits outside the realm of rap beef, but his dealings in Queens play a part in the overall situation. Your Life's on the Line is the first official diss track released by 50 Cent in the beef. The song was also featured on his official debut mixtape, Guess Who's Back, released in 2002, as well as on his official debut album, Get Rich or Die Tryin, released in 2003. On Your Life's on the Line, 50 disses Ja Rule and Murder Inc. on the chorus mainly, with subliminal shots thrown in his verses, but on a different version of the song that was released, he takes direct shots at Ja, along with other artists like Puffy and Mr. Cheeks from the Lost Boys. This version was allegedly changed because of his record label at the time, Columbia Records, taking issue with the names being mentioned in the song. This is the first of the well-known diss tracks, but 50, Tony Yayo, and Lloyd Banks, aka G-Unit, would take several shots at Ja Rule and Murder Inc. on the mixtapes. Among the first of those would be on the Birth of G-Unit mixtape hosted by DJ Rough Hands on a freestyle over the beat of LL Cool J's song, I Shot Ya. He also took shots at Ja on a freestyle he did over the beat for Cream, aka Cash Rules Everything Around Me, by Wu-Tang Clan, as well as a freestyle over the Rockwilder by Method Man and Redman. Name a popular 90s song and people were rapping over it, that's how it goes. Early in 2000, the two got into a physical altercation in Atlanta as they were both booked to perform in the same club. According to a Vlad TV interview with Chaz Williams, aka Slim, the one who 50 mentions in the hit song Many Men with the lines, Slim switched sides on me, let niggas ride on me, I thought we was cool, why you want me to die, homie? 50 Cent and Ja Rule were supposed to talk about things, and that Ja Rule was already outside when they got to the hotel and was armed with a bat and several people from Murder Inc. 50 Cent and Ja walked off alone to talk, and then they started fighting, and Ja's crew attempted to jump 50, but everyone still walked away clean. And then later, while on the radio, 50 made claims of snuffing Ja in the face. There's multiple accounts of this story, but several people that were there have stated the same thing. 50 Cent was the first one to punch. Also, this situation is where 50 would later claim to have stolen Ja's chain from. This would only be the first physical altercation, but things down-spiraled from here. Only a couple months later, the beef would escalate yet again as the two crews found themselves at the Hit Factory studio in New York. Like the start of this beef and the previous altercation, there's multiple perspectives on what happened. Several people involved have had interviews about the situation. 50 and Yayo, for example, have kept their story the same. 50 had his gun in his jacket in another room, and the studio has very narrow hallways which kept him from getting to his gun and firing on Murder Inc. And during the fight, 50, Yayo, and the studio engineer were all stabbed, with 50 and Yayo stating that their wounds were minor and they went home afterwards. The engineer, however, was more badly wounded as he was stabbed in the chest. From Murder Inc.'s side, however, they would say that 50 went to the hospital afterwards as he was more badly wounded and that he got an order of protection against Murder Inc. because of the incident. Black Child specifically would state that the light got turned off during the fight and he heard someone from 50's side ask about the gun, which led him to start stabbing whoever he could.
One of the niggas with 50, like, yo, where the gat at? What? I just start hitting niggas, fine. Because I first thing kicked in my mind, if niggas get to the gat, one of us is dead. But I felt the gat was in the area and niggas was reaching for it. Know what I mean? And I wasn't letting nobody get to their gun to pop me. Know what I mean? So I started poking niggas straight up and down.
This led to the back and forth about an order of protection from 50 Cent to Murder Inc.
Lawyers let us know. Now, I mean, niggas was pressing charges. Niggas said that I stabbed them, and then I stabbed a few people and all that. They gave a statement on me. That's the statement that's floating around that some people don't think is a real document, but it's a real document.
50 in an interview would state that the order of protection is fake and just a publicity stunt.
You little bitch! Try to jump off like it's a promotional stunt. 7 days before your album drop, huh, you little bitch? Order of protection. From who?
While Murder Inc. would say that it is indeed real.
What I'm holding in my hand, I'm gonna leave with you, man, is an order of protection. An order of protection for Irving Lorenzo to stay away from Curtis Jackson. That's 50, y'all.
Others say that the order of protection does exist, but the police did it on behalf of 50 Cent as part of the procedure when these situations happen. Either way you look at it, this is one of the things that others would use against him in this beef and later ones to call 50 a snitch. After these altercations, it's back to beefing on wax. In March 2000, Murder Inc. released a compilation album, Irv Gotti Presents The Murderers, which has the track Shit Gets Ugly, featuring Vita, Black Child, Tom Murda, and Ja Rule, with Ja dissing 50 with his verse, specifically with the line referring to him as loose change. Funny enough, that would actually be the name of a later diss track that Ja Rule would aim at 50 as well. Somewhere around this time, a freestyle was made by Yayo, 50, and Storm P, in which 50 used his verse to diss Ja, as well as making references to getting stabbed and only getting a few stitches from it, which would place this probably shortly after the incident at the Hit Factory. Then, later on in May, 50 Cent was shot outside his grandmother's house in Queens. Like I said earlier, Supreme would play a part in this beef as, allegedly, he had been the one to give the order out to hit 50, and also Preem was associated with Irv Gotti and his brother as he met them when he got out of prison. Supreme approached them about making a film, probably because they were also from Queens and at the time probably had been shooting music videos for other artists. That unfortunately came back later on with the Murder Inc. Fed case, which caused the decline of the label's dominance in the industry, and the lines 50 would throw at Murder Inc. about them being extorted by Preem. After some time, 50 recovered from the shooting, but his voice was changed because of one of the bullets hitting him in the mouth, but eventually he went back to making music. In April of 2002, 50 Cent released the earlier mentioned mixtape, Guess Who's Back, which featured songs like Your Life's in the Line, which I mentioned was a diss to Ja Rule, as well as the tracks Get Out the Club and Who You Rep With, which both contain shots at Ja Rule as well. On the former, he disses Ja on the outro and again mentions the stabbing incident and says he'll be getting them back. On Who You Rep With, Nas and the Bravehearts are featured, and 50 again references the fight with the line, "Last rapper who raised his voice at me got jabbed in the eye," implying that he punched Ja Rule in the face during their confrontation in Atlanta. Also, on the track Be a Gentleman, he mentions Ja again with the line, "Yo, no more freestyles and verses, killing Sticky and Ja. I'm moving on now, I got bigger fish to fry," and then continues on to diss Jay-Z. Jay is one of the people who 50 dissed on How to Rob, and one of the few artists that did respond to him on a song, hence the back and forth. After the release of this mixtape, he wound up signing to Shady Records and Aftermath Entertainment after Eminem heard some of his music. In October, the soundtrack to the film 8 Mile was released, which featured the song Love Me, which has Obi Trice, Eminem, and 50 Cent on it. On 50's verse, he doesn't diss Ja Rule, but he mentions both Ashanti and Charlie Baltimore, who was signed to Murder Inc. at the time. Also, the soundtrack featured the song Wanksta, which was also included on the G-Unit mixtape No Mercy, No Fear, released a few months prior to the soundtrack, and was also included as a bonus track on Get Rich or Die Tryin. This was 50's first hit single, which pushed him into the mainstream, and although many say that this is a diss to Ja Rule, 50 Cent, when asked about it, would state that the song is not about Ja, but Ja does indeed fit the description of a wankster. Unfortunately, in October of 2002, 50's mentor, Jam Master Jay, was shot and killed while in a studio in Queens. Another person in the studio was shot as well, but survived the incident. Supreme, as well as Irv and Chris Gotti, were under investigation for the murder, as 50 Cent was blacklisted from the industry due to the song Ghetto Quran, and JMJ was considered to be going against this blacklist by signing 50 Cent and helping him with his career. Also in 2002, Ja Rule disses 50 Cent as well as DMX on a Rap City freestyle with a verse that would later appear on the song Connected from his 4th album, The Last Temptation, which was released in November. On that album, he also disses 50 and DMX again on the song Pop Niggas in the 3rd verse. DMX and Ja Rule were beefing around this time due to many perceiving that Ja was copying DMX's rap style. 50 Cent dissed Ja Rule again on the G-Unit mixtape, God's Plan. Yep, over 15 years before Drake made that title of his song, G-Unit used that as a mixtape title. Maybe Drake grew up listening to G-Unit too. Anyways, on the tracks Catch Me in My Hood and Bank's Workout Part 2, 50 Cent talks about someone indirectly, but it can be assumed that Ja Rule is the one who he's referring to considering their ongoing beef. Several tracks from 50 were featured on different mixtapes as they were essentially flooding the streets of songs, many of them obviously containing Ja Rule disses and adding fuel to the fire and increasing his own publicity. On one mixtape titled Big Mike Presents 50 Cent and G-Unit, The Future Is Now, the mixtape starts off with an excerpt from a Ja Rule and Irv Gotti interview with Star, where they talk about the alleged order of protection and even state that they have a copy in their possession and show it to Star. Then the mixtape goes into several tracks and skits that send jabs at Ja Rule and Murder Inc., such as skits 1, 2, and 3, Order of Protection, I Smell Pussy, We Got the Hood on Smash, and If You Want It. The Ja Rule duet skits are the best. They're just so humorous how they make fun of Ja for all the duets that he has of women like Ashanti, Lil Mo, and Jennifer Lopez. They have someone mocking Ja's deep singing voice and all. I recommend checking those out for a good laugh. A lot of the tracks are also featured on the G-Unit mixtape Automatic Gunfire, which was released around the same time. Sometime after the release of Wanksta, Black Child released a diss at 50 on the beat for Wanksta, and it's probably one of my favorite tracks from the beef, as I think Wanksta has a pretty dang good beat, and Black Child comes at 50 here over the snitching allegations again, and mentions 50 getting stabbed by him during the Hit Factory fight. Didn't that stab you up? Don't make me gun you down. Your whole career is nothing but a publicity stunt until I kill you and give you the publicity you want. Honestly, that's one of the hardest opening lines to me throughout this whole beef. Around this time, another shooting happened, as in January 2003, the Violator management office was shot up. Fortunately, no one was injured. It was considered by some to be a warning to Violator, as they had at the time been managing 50 Cent and also managed several other big artists such as Busta Rhymes and Missy Elliott. More shots directed at 50 Cent came soon from the Murder Inc. crew. Cadillac Ty, who knew 50 Cent when they were growing up, this is 50 on several tracks. On 38 Snub, he raps over the beat from 50's song In the Club. On Used to Be, featuring Black Child and Young Merc, they rap over the beat from DMX's song We Don't Give a Fuck, and send more shots at 50 Cent and G-Unit. Then on 40 Shots, more 50 and G-Unit shots are thrown once again. In February of 2003, 50 Cent drops his official debut studio album, Get Rich or Die Tryin', to critical acclaim. The album included the songs Back Down and Your Life's on the Line, both going at Ja Rule. If you see my videos on the most disrespectful lines and diss tracks, you recognize the former. 50 Cent is known for being pretty ruthless in his beefs. Back Down is one of my favorite songs from the beef and from 50 Cent in general. It's also one of the more well-known diss tracks from 50 to Ja. He disses him brutally with lines threatening Ja's wife and kids. He disses Irv Gotti as well by calling him a wannabe Suge Knight, and even claims that Ja is only famous because of Jay-Z and DMX, which likely comes from the fact that the three used to be a group called Murder Inc. What makes it funny is the second verse, however, as he makes fun of Ja Rule's singing voice with the line, "You sing for hoes and sound like the Cookie Monster." The Cookie Monster comparison is something they'd used to diss Ja Rule a few times throughout the back and forth. In February 2003, DJ Envy released his debut album, The Desert Storm Mixtape Block Party Volume 1, and on it is the track titled What Goes Around Comes Around by Lloyd Banks and 50 Cent, which Lloyd Banks disses Murder Inc. artist in his first verse. For example, the line, "Either I'm blind or Ashanti sideburns thicker than mine." It's one of the funnier lines from this not-so-humorous conflict. G-Unit associates Bang'em Smurf and Domination also released a diss track titled F Y'all from the G-Unit mixtape Bulletproof, which has Smurf doing the intro and Domination rapping over the beat for the Biggie song 10 Crack Commandments. He responds to Black Child for the Wanksta freestyle and uses that to diss Murder Inc.'s music. This is Ja Rule for the gay allegations against him, and this is Cadillac Ty with the line about him not even being able to afford a Cadillac. Another pretty good diss track here, and he prefaces it by saying that 50 Cent is too good to diss him, which places 50 at a higher level than his enemies. Send your soldiers after your enemy, pretty good tactic. Charlie Baltimore dissed 50 Cent and G-Unit on her Get At Me Dog freestyle, which of course is a freestyle over the classic track Get At Me Dog by DMX. On the music video for the song Murder Reigns from Ja Rule's The Last Temptation album, it features someone at the police station giving information on Murder Inc., then a reenactment of the feds raiding the Murder Inc. office. Considering the beef that they had at the time, it's fair to assume that the snitch in the video is meant to be 50 Cent, as calling him an informant or snitch was a common diss from Murder Inc. Around this time, Eminem and the rest of Shady Records started to get more involved with the beef by releasing their own diss tracks to Ja Rule. If you see my previous video talking about Eminem versus Benzino and The Source, then you remember some of these next tracks and situations from there, as Benzino basically teamed up with Ja Rule and Murder Inc., and of course 50 Cent and G-Unit were with Eminem and Shady Records as they were signed to the label, so I won't be going into too much detail on some of those incidents. If you missed that video, the link is in the description, so check it out after this. On the song Go to Sleep from the Cradle to the Grave soundtrack, Eminem, Obi Trice, and DMX diss Benzino and Ja Rule. Specifically, DMX disses Ja Rule as Eminem just mentions him in the last line of his verse that's aimed at Benzino. On the track Realest Killers, 50 Cent disses Ja Rule again for his perceived Tupac imitation, and to add insult to injury, it features Tupac on it from a song recorded before his death. The song is featured on a G-Unit mixtape but was then later officially released on the soundtrack for the Tupac Resurrection documentary. In April of 2003, in response to the various diss tracks 50 and Friends released, Ja Rule came back with the track Loose Change. On the song, he disses 50 Cent as well as Aftermath and Shady Records and others like Chris Lighty, the co-founder of Violator Records. It's one of the more well-known diss tracks coming from Ja Rule's side, and another one that's a favorite of mine. On it, Ja raps over two different beats. First being We Here Now from his first studio album, Vini Vidi Vici, and then Made You Look from Nas's fifth album, Stillmatic. He addresses 50 Cent as just loose change here, and talks about homosexual allegations with Dre, and mentions Chris Lighty and Busta Rhymes here as well, which brings Busta into the beef on another one of the big diss tracks which came out shortly afterwards. At the end of his second verse, he mentions Eminem's daughter Haley as well as his ex-wife Kim, which causes Eminem to retaliate to Ja harder and continuously. Shortly afterwards, Eminem, 50 Cent, and Busta Rhymes dropped a diss track, Hail Mary, dissing Ja Rule, which of course is their version of the song Hail Mary by Tupac. They mock Ja Rule throughout the song for trying to imitate Tupac. Various lines from Eminem's and 50 Cent's verses are references from Tupac's songs like Hail Mary and Against All Odds. M in particular also makes references to Ja's alleged ecstasy usage, which comes from Ja's song Ecstasy from his second album, Rule 336, as the song is dedicated to the pill. But coming from Eminem, it's honestly hypocritical considering him and D12 made their own song talking about their pill usage, and he's talked about his own drug addiction several times as well. This song comes from the DJ Green Lantern mixtape Invasion Part 2, Conspiracy Theory, which features several other diss tracks such as Bump Heads, Do Re Mi, We All Die One Day, Keep Talking, What Goes Around, as well as a freestyle by Tony Yayo dissing Ja Rule. One of the funnier diss tracks on here is Suck My Dick by Con Artist from D12 and a female rapper named Treasure, and that's largely due to Con Artist's verse and the chorus being once again humorous. Half the mixtape has something to do with dissing Murder Inc. pretty much, and some of these tracks are featured on other mixtapes as well. The track Bump Heads, which features Eminem, 50 Cent, Lloyd Banks, and Tony Yayo, was actually recently released officially on the expanded edition of the Eminem Show album for the 20th anniversary. And like Hail Mary and other diss tracks around this time, Eminem disses Ja for his pill popping, and they send shots at Irv Gotti for being a Suge Knight wannabe. Ja Rule also dissed 50 Cent and G-Unit on the track Guess Who Shot Ya, which was recorded around the same time as Loose Change, and as you can guess, it's his version of Biggie's song, Who Shot Ya? And of course, there's more taunts about 50 being shot. Sometimes I wonder what people would say to diss him if he didn't get shot several times. It's a pretty repetitive thing, however, some rappers have done it quite well. 50 is basically the same though with his disses towards Ja Rule, a bunch of mocking him about making duets with women, which is quite ironic as he went on to do the same thing with Olivia and others. Just a little hypocrisy for ya. Moving on though, D12 on the mixtape titled Limited Edition Mixtape made references to the beef as well. On the Royce da 5'9" diss, Smackdown, Con Artist makes a comparison to Ja Rule because of his ecstasy usage as Eminem has done previously, and on the track Robbery, Bizarre in his typical comedic fashion has a line about Ja Rule being an R&B singer. Then on the track Kicking the Door, they diss Murder Inc. You'd think that it uses the beat from the Biggie song Kicking the Door, but actually it uses the beat from In the Club, which was originally a beat for D12, but they passed on it and it went to 50 Cent instead, who made the classic hit single with it. Around this time, Ja Rule came back again with another track, The Rap Freestyle, which has Ja rapping over the beat from Mobb Deep's song The Learning from their 5th album, Infamy. It was also included on the album Ja Rule released later on in 2003, Blood in My Eyes. On the track, he disses everyone, including 50, Busta, and Proof from D12. He responds back to all those insults about singing with the lines, "They say I rap to rhythm and blues, but when I turn on the radio, I hear all niggas rapping it too. He's like, baby, can you give it to me? Nah, I'ma give it to you the same way that we gave it to Proof, the same way that we gave it to Loose." Basically making references to physical altercations with Proof as well as 50 Cent, aka Loose. Shortly before this track, Murder Inc. had allegedly jumped Proof at a club. As posted on Hip Hop DX, Proof said the following: "Straight from the horse's mouth, Murder Inc. caught me at the Rolex in Florida. They got me outnumbered, 12 or 14 people to 3. I got no cuts, a little bruise, but let it be known, it is on and popping, and Irv was there, they snuck me. They were a bunch of kittens and DJs because all I got was scratches." Also, apparently Ja Rule and Busta Rhymes got into an altercation as well during the BET Awards. Their beef, however, will be pretty short-lived as Ja's issue was mainly with 50. On the mixtape G-Unit Radio Part 2 International Ballers, they dissed Murder Inc. again on the tracks Summer Jam, Diss Movie, which is a skit mocking Ja Rule, Clips, which has Lloyd Banks dissing Ja, and It Is What It Is, which is a 50 Cent track dissing Ja and Irv as usual. Shortly afterwards, on the mixtape Big Mike Prevents Cruel Summer 2K3, it featured a freestyle from Eminem as well as one by Ja Rule. Eminem rapped over the beat for Wanksta, and this is Ja. On the track It's Murder, featuring Hussein Fatal from the Outlaws, the two diss 50 Cent and Eminem, and Ja makes another reference to Proof and the physical altercation they had. Hussein Fatal disses 50 Cent, especially with the lines, "50, you ain't nothing but a gangster bitch. Pac would never did no song with no wankster snitch," which is a response to the earlier mentioned song that 50 did that featured vocals from Tupac. This track, like the rap, also was included on the Ja Rule album Blood in My Eye, released a few months later. The next G-Unit mixtape, G-Unit Radio Part 3, Taking It to the Streets, featured the track Shit Hits the Fan, which is another diss track towards Ja Rule, and it was later featured on Obi Trice's debut album Cheers, released in September 2003. I mentioned it in the previous beef video regarding Eminem and Benzino, but on this track, Dr. Dre and Obi Trice mainly diss Ja Rule once again. The funniest part probably being when Dr. Dre said that Ja Rule would have to jump up just to swing at his knees, which is of course a shot at Ja's height. He also mentions that if Tupac was still alive, he wouldn't be cool with Ja, and he also acknowledges that they were on bad terms when he was killed. Also from that same album, Eminem sent the shot at Ja Rule on the track Lady by making a reference to Ja Rule's jewelry being stolen. And again on the track Outro, D12 and Obi Trice all take their turns dissing Ja Rule as well. Around this time, Proof recorded the diss track Ja and a Bra, which obviously is a diss track to Ja, and is perhaps one of the better diss tracks coming from this side of the beef. He attacks Ja and the Gotti brothers for Ja mentioning him in the track It's Murder Freestyle, and for jumping him at the club in Florida. He claims that they jumped him with 10 people and he walked away barely scratched. The track was officially released on his debut studio album I Missed the Hip Hop Shop, which was released in 2004. In October 2003, Clapback, the first single of Ja's new album, was released, which was another diss track to 50 Cent and another one of the most well-known tracks that came from the Murder Inc. side. The B-side to the song, The Crown, was also a diss track, and in fact, the music video for Clapback starts off with a snippet of The Crown as well. Clap Back is the standout track from this album that's full of mainly diss tracks to 50 Cent and crew. It basically popularized the phrase clap back in the hip-hop lexicon. During this time, Murder Inc. was still under investigation, and Ja in various interviews over the years would state that as the reason why he was unable to respond as he wanted to the onslaught of disses sent his way. According to him, Irv had requested him to stay silent in order to not bring more heat upon them from the feds. Anything you say can and will be used against you, as they say. So it is a very common misconception to more casual hip-hop fans or people outside of the culture that Murder Inc. was brought from their height due to a rap beef, when in fact it was due to a federal investigation, spending money on lawyer fees, and being removed from Def Jam's offices. Basically, the legal and business side of things was the biggest hindrance, but being embroiled in this public rap beef and having the altercations didn't help either. In a Vlad TV interview, Chris Gotti stated that they spent about $10 million on legal fees, and then later when Vlad interviewed Irv, he confirmed it and stated he himself covered the legal fees for everyone involved. The investigation went until December 2005 when they were formally acquitted of the charges. Beating a federal case is extremely rare, and this was one of the first and biggest times that you could say hip-hop really prevailed. Back to the dissing now though. As I said previously, most of the Blood in My Eye album was a diss to 50 Cent and crew. It featured several tracks that were previously heard on various DJ mixtapes, and the album as a whole was panned by critics, and it was his lowest selling album at the time. Around this time, Hussein Fatal, who had aligned himself with Ja Rule and Murder Inc., had released a mixtape titled Fadeavelli Volume 1, and on it he sent several shots to 50 Cent and Eminem as he had done on Ja's album. To me, getting a friend and fellow group member of Tupac's was a pretty good move to counter all the Tupac copycat disses that Shady Records members were spouting. Also in November 2003, G-Unit released their next mixtape, G-Unit Radio Part 4, No Peace Talks, which is most likely a reference to the fact that in October, Ja Rule had a meeting with Minister Farrakhan to discuss the highly publicized beef that he had with 50 Cent. 50 later in an interview when speaking on it, stated that it was a promotional stunt for Ja Rule's album, which was releasing soon. He goes on to say that he would not be down for making peace with Ja. Some tracks from this mixtape include snippets from the interview like Chase You Outta Here and Motherfucking Star, which are basically used to mock Ja more. Late in 2003, a bootleg collection of Eminem songs titled Straight From The Lab was released, which included several tracks dissing Ja Rule and Benzino. Those being Bully, Haley's Revenge aka Do Re Mi, which I mentioned previously, and Come On In, which was released officially at 6 in the morning on D12's second album, D12 World. Also on the track Monkey See, Monkey Do, the beef with Ja is mentioned as well. On Bully, Eminem disses Benzino on the first verse and dedicates the second and third verses towards dissing Irv Gotti and Ja Rule. M claims Irv to be scared of Suge Knight and that Irv is controlling Ja Rule and should stop him from popping pills. In January 2004, G-Unit dropped their next mixtape, G-Unit Part 5, All Eyes on Us, which featured a freestyle from Tony Yayo, newly released from jail, and sending shots at Benzino and Murder Inc. You'd think that there would be a lack of diss tracks, but honestly, it still goes on. Like seriously, out of all the rap beefs I've heard of, this one just seems to have the most, especially in the mainstream. In March 2004, DJ K-Slay released his second album, The Street Sweepers, Volume 2, which has the song I'm Gone, featuring Eminem and Obi Trice. Eminem starts his verse off with the line, I murder this ink soon as I touch the page, which is a double entendre taking a shot at Murder Inc., and the rest of the song has several subliminal shots going at Ja Rule and Benzino. In June, Proof released his album, I Miss the Hip Hop Shop, which features the previously mentioned track, Ja in a Bra, but also features the song E and 1 equal None, which is a diss track aimed at fellow Detroit rapper Esham, but while dissing Esham, he mentions Ja Rule and Benzino as well as people he's beefing with. On the mixtape released in July, G-Unit Radio Part 8, The Fifth Element, Steve-O from Jackass has interludes on there, and on one in particular, he disses Ja Rule. At this point, it's kinda ridiculous. 50 got everyone and their grandmother to chime in on the beef. Young Buck had his chance at the beef as well, and he's not even from Queens like the rest of G-Unit and the Murder Inc. crew. On his debut album, Straight Outta Cashville, he dissed Ja Rule on the song Black Gloves, on the second verse with the lines, why you walking around without a gun? Shit real till the nigga get killed, then you wanna run and get one. Fuck that. I'm calling out names. Ja Rule, y'all lose. I don't even care how it started. Fuck me, fuck you. Wait till Yayo get home. At this time, Yayo was obviously locked up again, which is why he rarely appeared on any diss tracks at this time. He was barely featured on G-Unit's first album at all, hence Young Buck stepping in to replace him. In November, Ja Rule released his 6th album, R.U.L.E., which has the hit single New York, which features Fat Joe and Jadakiss. On Ja's verse, he disses 50, specifically with the lines, "Y'all niggas is pussy, punani vagina, your monologue is getting tired, now it's time to ride, apprentice, you're fired, you're no longer desired, so take off them silly chains, put back on your wire." Once again, another one of my favorite opening verses throughout this beef. Sometime around this point, Murder Inc. released a mixtape. The Inc. presents Innocent Until Proven Guilty, Volume 1, which features tracks dissing G-Unit again like Boss You Down and Ride on Our Enemies, and the mixtape title is a reference to the criminal investigation. Late in 2003, Irv Gotti changed the name of Murder Inc. to The Inc., most likely due to this same federal case. I don't blame them. You want to make yourself look more peaceful. So, understandably so, most of these diss tracks are from the 50 Cent side to Ja Rule's side. That being said, G-Unit Radio Part 10, 2050 Before the Massacre, released at the top of the year, which features the diss track I'm an Animal, which has 50 once again dissing Irv and Supreme, making mention of their Fed case and stating that they're going to be cellmates in prison. Listening to songs like this and Ghetto Quran, you can imagine why Supreme and crew would be pretty annoyed by 50. I don't blame them really. Around this time, another mixtape dropped, Warriors Words Part 2, The Art of War, G-Unit vs. Hoodstock, which as you can guess from the title, put several tracks from G-Unit and Hoodstock, which features Black Child from Murder Inc. on the same mixtape. Hoodstock disses G-Unit on several tracks here like We Go Up and Hoodstock Exchange, and has comedian Michael Blackson talking on various tracks, dissing G-Unit as well on tracks like Michael Blackson's skit and African King of Comedy. In March 2005, 50 Cent released his 2nd album, The Massacre, which features more shots at Ja Rule and Murder Inc. On the remix of Hate It or Love It, Game disses Irv Gotti with the lines, "This nigga ain't Gotti, he pretend mad at us cause Ashanti got a new boyfriend," which is a reference to the fact that Ashanti and Irv Gotti at one point had a relationship. That relationship was even rumored at one point to be the reason why Irv separated from his wife. Then on Ski Mask Way, 50 throws a jab at Ja briefly in the first verse, and then there is Piggy Bank, another one of the biggest diss tracks from the beef and another one of my favorites. 50 disses not only Ja Rule, but Jadakiss and Fat Joe for them featuring on Ja Rule's song New York months prior. He disses them throughout the first verse, including a reference to the song New York itself. "Got 100 guns, 100 clips, why ain't here no shots? That fat nigga thought lean back was in the club, my shit sold 11 mil, his shit was a dub. Jada don't fuck with me if you wanna eat, cause I do your little ass like Jay did Mobb Deep. Yeah homie, in New York niggas like your vocals, but that's only New York dog, your ass is local." The Jay and Mobb Deep line is a reference of course to the Summer Jam screen situation during the Jay-Z and Prodigy beef, which I've covered on the channel previously. On the second verse, he disses a few more people, including Nas and Shine. Apparently 50 only started dissing Shine due to Irv Gotti wanting to sign him to Murder Inc. around this time, despite the fact that Shine was still in jail. In the video for the song, which was released after the album, shots are thrown at Cassidy and the Game as well. At this point, Game was kicked out of the group, and they would also have a beef that went back and forth for some years, which would basically become 50 Cent's new biggest beef. G-Unit and Murder Inc. would continue to go back and forth on tracks for at least a little while longer, however. Sometime around then, Hoodstock released the mixtape A Warrior's Words Part 3, which once again included some disses to 50 Cent. The mixtape has several references to snitches, which you can assume are subliminal shots at 50. On tracks like CB4 Mixtape Trailer and Snitch Co-Insurance, it's made pretty obvious and comedically that they're going straight at him. In November 2005, the film Get Rich or Die Tryin and soundtrack to it were released. Like 8 Mile, it's a fictionalized version of the story of 50 Cent, starting from him being a kid selling crack and going on to become a rapper. It's a classic hood film. If you haven't seen it, then check it out. The soundtrack features the hit single Window Shopper, which has multiple versions, one of which being the mixtape version from G-Unit Radio Part 15, which has 50 Cent dissing Ja, Jada, Joe, and Nas directly calling the window shoppers. Basically, he's flossing his wealth again at his opponents. On the other versions of the song, the names are omitted however, so you wouldn't be able to tell exactly who he's referring to. But given he was beefing with some very well-known rappers at the time, it's probably still pretty obvious. Young Merc, who was affiliated with Murder Inc., dissed 50 Cent with the track Coppas, which has him rapping over the beat for Window Shopper, and in the usual fashion, once again calling 50 a snitch. Side note, if you want to diss 50 Cent, just call him a snitch or mention how he got shot multiple times. That's pretty much rap beef with 50 Cent 101. Most of the well-known diss tracks were already released at this point in the beef. Various affiliated rappers, however, still took their shots occasionally, and other jabs were thrown. In December 2005, the Ashanti compilation album Collectibles was released, which was also the last album distributed by Def Jam for Murder Inc. After several years of having ties with Def Jam, it was officially over due to the federal investigation the Inc. was going through. Collectibles, however, featured the track Still Down remix, which has a verse from Cadillac Ta once again dissing 50 Cent. Props to Ta for taking any chance to diss 50 he can, even on R&B song remixes. Dedication, I like to see it. By this time, 50 was still in the upswing in his career. His sophomore album might not have been as well received as his first, but he was also releasing video games like 50 Cent Bulletproof, acting, and releasing film soundtracks, as well as getting brand deals like the vitamin water Formula 50. So overall, he was achieving a pretty high level of success commercially. Ja Rule, on the other hand, was unfortunately on the downswing of his career due to a combination of the investigation, losing their deal with Def Jam, declining record sales, and 50 Cent dissing him for his style while also copying that same style. Still, the beef goes on. In 2006, Ja Rule released the track So Hot, which featured multiple lines going at 50 again, and also released the track 21 Guns as well, featuring Young Merc and Cadillac Ta, also taking plenty shots at 50. In So Hot, he makes a reference to Kanye's Diamond song from Late Registration, which was released in 2005, and during one of his verses on 21 Guns, Ja Rule mentions the acquittal of the case, as well as 50 Cent being on the cover of GQ magazine, which both happened in December 2005, so I'd probably place these songs being released towards the beginning of the year. Then in July 2006, the mixtape G-Unit Radio Part 21, Hate It or Love It, was released, which featured the track 5 Heartbeats, which has 50 Cent taking more shots at Ja, Joe, and Jada. On the mixtape G-Unit Radio Part 22, Hip Hop Is Dead, most likely named after the Hip Hop Is Dead album that Nas had announced months prior, they once again dissed Ja, Jada, Joe, and Nas, as well as Puff Daddy for some reason. It's actually one of the funnier skits throughout the beef, as the preacher gives a eulogy on the artist and hip-hop as a whole, stating that 50 Cent is the one who killed him with his money-making ways, choruses, and catchy hooks. Later on in November 2006, Game dropped his second album, Doctor's Advocate, with the bonus track It's Okay, One Blood remix. At almost 12 minutes long with over 20 rappers on it, at that point it was one of the rap songs with the most artists featured and one of my favorite remixes. What makes it relevant to this beef though is the fact that multiple people that previously or were still beefing with 50 Cent, like Game, Ja Rule, Nas, Fat Joe, Jadakiss, Styles P, and even rappers he would be beefing with later on like Jim Jones and Rick Ross, were all over this track. Fat Joe even disses 50 on his verse with the lines, "Somebody go and get this nigga a pint box, and I ain't just talking about a measly 9 shots." Obviously a reference to the 9 shots 50 claims to have been hit with. Putting together all these artists, several of which beef with 50 Cent, felt like a real screw you to 50 from Game. Also, not to mention the fact that Ja Rule went last on the song and had easily one of the best verses on it. Remember how I mentioned 50 Cent starting a beef with Shine over Irv potentially wanting to sign him, and starting a beef with Jada and Joe over them doing a song with Ja Rule? Well, 50 did the same thing again with Lil Wayne, which is how their short-lived beef started. In 2007, Ja Rule did a song together with Lil Wayne titled Uh-Oh, which was meant to be released on his 7th album, Mirror, which got delayed and released later on in 2009 as a free mixtape instead. Also on the intro of the mixtape, Ja sent a subliminal shot at 50 with a line mentioning being in the club and getting finished off with a 10th shot, which is a reference to 50's hit single and another bullet on top of the 9. In response, 50 Cent put out the song Play This on the Radio sometime in 2009, where he sent shots at several people, including Lil Wayne, Jay-Z, Ja Rule, Cameron, Fat Joe, and even Oprah. Yes, even Oprah Winfrey can catch a stray from 50 apparently. Also back in 2007, while on promotion for his next album, Ja did an interview with Angie Martinez from Hot 97.1, and he made subliminal references to 50 Cent dissing him for his musical style with the duets, but now copying his style. Several years later, in 2013, Ja Rule and Irv Gotti again interviewed with Angie Martinez, and they admitted that they took the loss in the beef with 50 Cent and went on to explain why it happened. People like to say 50 Cent is petty, and I'd say that's pretty accurate considering how many beefs he started. Some of them I don't necessarily blame him given how serious the beef with Ja was. It really seemed like a matter of the friend of my enemy is my enemy and not knowing who to trust after having an attempt made on your life. You could say that some level of paranoia and PTSD kicked in. Also in 2009, 50 would begin his beef with Rick Ross in earnest, and several tracks went back and forth between G-Unit and Rick Ross and crew. This ties into the beef with Ja, as well as on the track Mafia Music Remix, Rick Ross featured Ja Rule, Game, and Jadakiss, who all were beefing with 50 Cent, and they all dissed 50 on it. From here on out, the beef was mentioned more sparingly and would mostly be referenced by other artists as a thing of the past, with an occasional bar thrown between the two, and it would start to become something that became a Twitter war of words like many other rap beefs became at this time. The beef might have died down musically as both artists had slowed down on their music output greatly, but on social media, they were still prevalent. For those wondering about Eminem and Ja Rule, in 2018 on his album Kamikaze, he made a reference to Ja Rule on the song Greatest, as well as on the Machine Gun Kelly diss Kill Shot released weeks later. Then again on his next album, Music to be Murdered By, released in 2020, he referenced the beef again on Book of Rhymes, as well as Discombobulated. Outside of occasional mentions on songs like this, Eminem had essentially taken himself out of the beef years prior. As far as 50 and Ja, their Twitter war and the trolling continued, as you can see by some of these tweets here, and that's not the half of it. I've stated on other rap beef videos like KRS-One vs MC Shan or Lil Kim vs Foxy Brown that those are some of the longest rap beefs, and this right here, 50 Cent vs Ja Rule, takes its place right alongside those. But perhaps even more so considering the sheer amount of other rappers that got involved, physical altercations that occurred, and social media trolling that it turned into. Not to mention having some of the most classic diss tracks in rap. What do you think about the beef? Was 50 Cent really a snitch? Would Ja Rule and other Murder Inc. artists have bigger careers if that federal case hadn't happened? Who's your favorite artist out of the bunch, and what's your favorite diss track? Hit the comments section and let me know your thoughts. If you made it this far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, click the like button, and click that join button to become a channel member and help support the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video.